brought to you almost live from the Dude in the Basement Studios. Why? Because that's where the good stuff is. It's Sips, Suds, and Smokes with your smoking host, the good old boys. And now it's sippin' time.
Hello and welcome to this Suds episode where everything good in life is worth discussing. We are the best thing on at 2 a.m. and we thank you for choosing to listen to us instead of medieval poetry with Mary. Wherefore art thou, O Philippa, in the dewy mist of the fallen rain? So you're on Sip, Suds, and Smokes. I am one of your hosts here this evening. This is good old boy Mike. Joining me here on this show are good old boy Kevin.
How's it going?
And good old boy Will.
Hello there.
We are recording this episode at the Music City Tippler in Nashville, Tennessee. My thanks to them for hosting us for this show. You can catch Will and Kevin behind the bar sometimes here. So I've actually been to the Tippler in New York City, which is actually under the Chelsea Market on 15th Street. It's a small sign on the east on the side of the building. You just look for the hordes of people from Google across the street, and that is where you're headed. Just follow all the Googleites, and that is definitely where everybody is going to show up. So if you want to know about the latest tech talk in New York City, head to the Tippler in New York City. That would be my top pick, because there's nothing like a bunch of tech people with really fat expense accounts to make for a really great evening. Well, I love the thrill of actually finding the Tippler in New York City. This Nashville location is expansive. It is really nice. It's very inviting. It has a very cool bar back piece that I could stare at all day long. And I'm talking about the furniture. I'm not talking about the hot bartenders that are behind the bar all day long. It's really a very cool place. So I'm really glad that we actually got to be here and record here. So it's a real pleasure. Listen, our sip segments are all about wine, distilled spirits, tea, and coffee. Today is a mixed drink show with distilled spirits. Will and Kevin are masters of the art, and good old boy Mike has some former experience tending bar as well. Today we're going to cover some classics, and I am looking forward to this because there are some great classics that you should get to know. I would definitely tell you that these are some things that you probably want to figure out how to make at home at your own wet bar at some point in time. You'll definitely be the hostess with the mostest if you can figure that out. These drinks are actually pretty easy to make for the most part, but there's a lot of things you can screw up incredibly easy, very quickly. Both a combination of the recipes as well as the technique in making some of these classic drinks might take a little bit of trial and error, but we'll lead you through some of those things to make it a little bit easier for you. So we'll have these recipes online, and I'll try to credit the source where possible. Now, listen, some of these recipes have been copied, renamed, rehashed, published, pilfered so many times that nobody actually owns the recipe. So I will certainly do my best to try and do that. So there are 4 classics we're going to get to go through on this episode today. First up is going to be the infamous Bushwacker. Kevin's going to get to talk about this one. The perfect old-fashioned. Will's going to cover that one. The Moscow Mule and the French 75. So those are the 4 drinks we're going to get to go through. Will and Kevin are going to split these up, and they'll be introducing the drinks as we go along, and we'll be talking about these. But first up, we're going to talk about our Sips ratings. Will, you have the honors of going over our Sips ratings for today.
All right, so our Sips ratings are 1. Give me a glass of water to wash out my mouth.
Water.
We might have one in that category.
2. Nice, but what else do you have?
Well, isn't that nice?
3. Interesting. What was this again?
Interesting.
4. Let's keep this secret to ourselves. Pour me another.
That's classified.
And 5, oh my, I was unaware anything could be this good.
Oh my goodness!
Now, let's rate Will's ability to read the sipped ratings.
Did I do okay?
I'm going to go ahead and give him a 1.
A 1.
Oh, God.
Nice. Give me a glass of water to wash out my mouth.
Yeah.
You know, I was thinking a -2 rating might be, in the offing.
Was it that week?
You have to attend method acting class, with Kevin.
With Kevin.
I don't have the love and charm with my voice that Kevin does.
Anyway, we'll let you rehearse that, and we'll let you work your way up to a 1, okay? So a really great show that I'm looking forward to, talking about these classic drinks. And I know this is a mainstay of what you do here at the Tippler. I mean, you guys make speakeasy throwback drinks all day long.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And I know that you don't make all of these here, but I happen to start with a collection that was a good blend of some classics, that are kind of made, in a lot of places. And so I'm really looking forward to the discussion about a lot of these. Some of these drinks people just may not know because they're not made at every single establishment anymore. Part of it is a lack of skill. Some of it is a demand issue. Some of it is just, finding the ingredients is, even a little difficult as well. So let's get right to some drinks. I'm thirsty, and I am definitely eager to kill some brain cells, Kevin. So up
Excellent.
First is going to be the Bushwacker.
Oh, the Bushwacker.
You're going to tell us all about this drink, the history of it, and all about it.
This is a classic, all right. So here in Nashville, there's a lot of locations that have Bushwackers, different varieties, and they're all unique. They're all tasty, and they'll get you where you want to go.
Yep.
Easily. So the Bushwacker actually comes from Pensacola Beach, Florida. It's basically a variation on it's basically a chocolate pina colada. That's basically what it is, for those of you that have never had one. So you can kind of get that visual going.
Mm-hmm. That's a good description. I like that label.
Yeah.
Milkshake for men.
Yeah.
The way to.
Exactly. It was the signature drink of the Sandshaker. Yeah, also known as the Shaker. And that's the home of basically the original Bushwacker. It's been there for almost over 30 years. I think they began selling them in about 1975. It's definitely rich, it's creamy, it's this chocolatey concoction that they've been selling for years. It's amazing. I need to get down there and actually have one of the original ones instead of the ones here. So, so basically, the owner, I believe, went down to the Virgin Islands, tasted this drink.
Yeah, man.
Called the Bushwacker.
We make you a good drink.
Yeah,
man.
exactly. And it was so good that they wanted to bring it back to the United States. So they brought it back. They kind of experimented with it. They added a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and they came up with the modern day, basically, Bushwacker.
I think the original name was No Problem.
Yeah.
Hey, man, you got problem? No problem, man. After this drink.
So it was a hit, like immediately. Everyone loved it, and they were made in a blender originally, and most places now have machines. Like everywhere in Nashville here, they have these big like slushy machines.
And
they make them in huge batches, and they just dump a bucket of a bunch of rum and booze, and it comes out.
I'll have a Bushwacker machine.
It is a sad sight to see them dump all of that at the end of the night. So basically, one of the main ingredients in the Bushwacker is Kahlua. This is Kahlua is a coffee liqueur, and it was added in there, kind of get those coffee notes in there, those flavors. Very delicious. Also, 151 rum, everyone's favorite.
Oh yeah, man.
High proof rum.
Flammable.
Very flammable.
On many levels.
Yep.
Yeah.
What's he saying, man? Oh, he has no problem.
Exactly.
Hey, he's enjoying 151.
And then they'll also do, a couple places do a couple varieties. They'll do a banana or strawberry Bushwacker. So all the kind of recipes nowadays are different. Every bar or whatever has their own variation on it.
Some are high proof. Some just taste like milkshakes. They all pretty much actually taste like milkshakes.
I had one. I'm pretty sure the one it might be 2 bits, but I had a Bushwacker with an Amaro in it. I think it had a Verna as well.
Yeah, see, that sounds delicious.
Everybody loves a Verna.
Would you call that Bushwacker Premium?
Yeah, exactly. So the basic recipe for most of the Bushwhackers, they're going to have cream of coconut in there. They're going to have Kahlua, some sort of, as you finish your Bushwacker, some sort of dark rum, Creme de Cacao, which is basically chocolate liqueur, half and half, ice cream, and high-proof rum. Could be a variation of any of that.
More rum.
Always more rum. I've heard people have like 16, 17, 18 different ingredients in there before.
Yeah, people...
insane.
No way. Yeah, no, people will throw in...
They just start dumping things in
It's like any rum they can find, and you know...
What's what got in the back butt tonight?
Yeah, exactly. Trying to get
just
rid
throw
of
the gin in there.
Oh, God,
Nobody knows.
That's delicious stuff.
So it's pretty simple. You just dump all this in the blender, hit blend?
Pretty much. I mean... There's probably a couple different variations out there, but most of the time it's going to be, dump it all in there and taste as you go.
I mean, yeah.
The more rum, the better.
With the first time I tried to make one and I didn't have a recipe with me, I basically did like I would do a milkshake. You know, I used the cream and the creme de cacao and rum, and I threw in a little bit of vanilla ice cream and some chocolate liqueur and Kahlua and blended it up and, you know, kind of made an impromptu Bushwacker, and it came out great. Really, the Bushwacker is just a basic recipe for how to, you just blend Kahlua, whatever kind of rum you want, throw in some form of coconut flavoring there, and ice cubes, throw it in a blender, and you've got yourself a delicious, awesome beach cocktail, but really good anytime.
So, Kevin, how would you rate the Bushwacker that we have here in front of us?
This is a difficult rating.
And your sips rating is?
I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to give this a 5.
Ooh, a 5.
just because. I'm just going to do it.
Party foul.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just going to go out there and give it a 5 because I had never seen it when I came to Nashville, and I had it, and I was amazed. It was great with the cheeseburger.
Well, what do you think of Bushwacker here?
God, you know, I'm so tempted to actually say 5 again.
Oh my God.
I mean, the thing is,
it's a classic.
It's a classic. There's a reason this has been around for so long. It's really yummy. Like, I'm sipping on this one now, and I'm like, you know, you don't have to be fancy about it. You do not have to throw some frilly, you know, banana dolphin to make it look good.
What's a banana dolphin?
You never. It's a garnish where you cut up a banana and it looks like a dolphin. It's ridiculous. I mean, tiki bar, anyways. But I'm saying that it doesn't need a garnish. It doesn't need to have super high-end stuff. It's just a pretty good all-around cocktail. It's good and it's yummy, and I think that the amount of bars in Nashville...
You don't have to justify it. You love it.
I love it. I love Bushwhackers. I have been bushwhacked many a time. It's gotten me rebarded and up and down Broadway bro house, whatever you like to call it. It is a yummy drink. So I'm going to have to go with 5.
Group therapy, Tuesdays at 1 o'clock.
Yeah. I'll see you there, Kevin.
You know, I don't know if I call that a fall from grace or what. It's just, I don't know. There's some moment here I just can't quite figure out what it is. You know, I've had the Bushwacker actually in several places in the Panhandle area. I have not been to the Sandshaker itself, but so I guess one thing I was thinking about was one of the things about this drink is I think about some regionality, you know, to this. So if I had to pick where this particular one, it would run along the lines of wherever sweet tea is.
So, yeah, right.
Like, I don't think that they would serve Bushwhackers in, like, Ohio. Or
the Pacific Northwest.
I don't think, you would not find them anywhere, west of Missouri. So I do think there is some regionality that this is, we're going to call it a southeast, south, maybe a lower Midwest, kind of classic drink. It is something that a lot of people, make this. So I guess the one place that this really caught my attention, it happened to be a place in Nashville, Tennessee, at the Broadway Brew House. This is a bar that I don't go to a whole lot, but when I do go, I'm there for the beer. They have really, really great beer at the brew house, the Broadway Brew House location. And I was there for a particular beer release that evening, and I was actually sitting at the bar, and I can't begin to tell you that I was probably the only one that was drinking beer in the entire place, because everybody around me, there were a lot of young ladies and a lot of college-age kids that were like, I want a Bushwacker. I want a double Bushwacker. I want a Bushwacker that has more rum in it. I want a Bushwacker. I was like, oh, okay, all right. I'm not having a Bushwacker. But I didn't have one that evening, but I did come back in another time at that same, back to the brew house, and I did ask for one, and I hadn't had one here in Nashville ever. And I actually watched them make it a little bit slower and understanding the ingredients. And the one thing that they skipped was they didn't float the 151 on the top as the recipe calls for. And I think if this version actually made it like that, I probably would enjoy it a lot more. I'm a 151 fan.
Group therapy.
Yeah. What'd I say? Tuesdays?
Yeah, we can carpool.
Tuesdays at 1 o'clock. Good. I'll let you use my bus pass.
Yeah.
But, I think that I have tried, 2 or 3 varieties since then. It's a good drink. It'd be a little difficult for me to call this a classic of all time. It'll be interesting to see if this survives 100 years from now. Like some of the other drinks we're going to talk about
are already 100 years old.
are well over 100 years. So I would say the fact that the Bushwacker has been around for 40, pretty good start.
Yeah.
And I think part of it is the simplicity of the ingredients and appealing to a wide range of palates.
Exactly.
And young ladies. So
it's also one of those everlasting, like, hair of the dog type of drinks, too. It's one of those drinks a lot of people have.
Where you have it in your hand in a styrofoam cup at 2 a.m. going, this still tastes pretty good.
Yeah.
What is this?
In Nashville, it's known as the nectar of the Vandy candy.
Ah, well, there you go.
Young Vandy students love their Bushwackers.
Definitely, and there were a lot of them there at the brew house the evening that I was there. All right, so my sips rating for the Bushwacker, I'm sorry, I'm gonna give it a 3. I can't go there. Hopefully it'll get me out of group therapy with you, Will. I'll still hold your hand, buddy, and you can take the buzz. All right, so we've covered one really great classic, and again, if you want to look at the recipes for any of these items, we'll actually have them posted on our Facebook site, along with the episode information itself, if you're listening to this online as well, so you'll get to see it. Up next is a really classic drink. It is highly misunderstood, poorly made many times over, and I'm so glad to have Will to introduce this drink to us and talk about the history of this and tell us how to make the old-fashioned.
So the old-fashioned, I've spent a lot of time working with it, learning how to make it, learning the history around it. It's, at its most basic, the old-fashioned is 3 ingredients. It is whiskey, sugar, and bitters.
And water.
And water. Water, is the 4th ingredient, the ice, the dilution. It originates, the first time, it actually was not always called the old-fashioned. Back in, I think it was 1806, was the first time the word cocktail was ever used in print. It was describing a political rally, a drink at a political rally that was meant to befuddle the mind and embolden the spirit. It was whiskey, sugar, and bitters. And people would go to bars and they would order the cocktail. They would ask, if you go to a bar and you order the cocktail, they would give you whiskey, sugar, and bitters. Bear in mind that back then in the early 1800s, most whiskey was cask strength. This is barrel to bottle. It's higher proof whiskey. So cutting it with sugar and bitters made sense, and it still does. But as people started getting more creative with their cocktails, the term cocktail no longer meant that. It meant an overall, way of mixing drinks. So people would order their cocktail the old-fashioned way, and then there you have it, the old-fashioned. Now, Traditionally, it's made with rye whiskey. It's a little hotter, and it is a stirred cocktail. It is one of the only cocktails that is stirred in the glass. You do not need to stir it and then use a julep strainer and pour it into the glass. You do your whiskey, your sugar, your bitters, and your ice cubes, and stir it. Most of the time in modern day, if I was to make a classic old-fashioned at a bar, I would use a 1/4 ounce of, ideally, Demerara simple syrup. This is a sugar 1-to-1. Demerara is a thicker sugar. It's darker. You get a lot more flavor and sweetness from it. You need to use less of it, which allows the whiskey to come out a lot more. And then you would do 2 ounces of rye whiskey, and I was taught to use 1 dash of Angostura bitters, which is one of the original bitters. It is about as old as the old-fashioned itself. It was originally designed to be for medical uses. It was meant to help, your stomach and your digestive process. But alcoholics in the morning started putting bitters and Angostura in their whiskey because they both wanted to drink and their stomach hurt because they drank too much the night before, and all of a sudden it becomes this awesome alcohol flavoring. I also use 1 dash of old-fashioned bitters. It has a lot of allspice in it. It's really flavorful and floral. But the thing is, with the old-fashioned, you really need to do your ratios, your proportions, and your bitters around what whiskey you're going to use. To make a good old-fashioned, your goal, or at least my goal is at least, to present the whiskey in the best way possible using sugar, bitters, and ice as a platform. So say you had a really hot whiskey like Rittenhouse Rye. Then I would think with Rittenhouse, I'd need to stir it a little longer. I want a little bit more dilution. But at the same time, Rittenhouse, it's so hot, and if you're stirring it a bit more, you don't need to use as much simple syrup because the water is going to dilute it a little bit. So use a little less simple. And then you might use 2 dashes of old-fashioned because all that heat, and with the dilution, you're going to lose some of those softer herbal notes. So your goal with an old-fashioned is to bring out all the best flavor you can on the whiskey and to present it as best as possible using those tools.
The old-fashioned, too, it's definitely one of the most dynamic cocktails out there because it's so simple with just the 3 ingredients, but even just changing the sugar, using Demerara or regular simple syrup, you can use agave, you can use maple, you can do all these different for sweetness, and then all the bitters that are out there nowadays, different styles of orange bitters, allspice, cherry bitters. So you can really change the cocktail just a little bit and tweak it, and it makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
But it's still such a very simple cocktail to make.
Well, so I like the one tip that you have there, Will, which is you really, and it's a little bit different than maybe I have it wired up in my head. Mm-hmm. I always think of this as from the nose down. Mm-hmm. You work on the aroma, and then you work down to the bourbon. But I agree with the way that you said it. Makes a lot more sense because work with the base bourbon and then kind of work your way back up about what it is you need to tweak or vary, based on the type of bourbon that you're really choosing for this. So even that one tip about if you're choosing something that's a bit more high, stir it a little bit longer, dilute it a little bit better. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a really good tip. I really like that.
Yeah, it's definitely meant for high rye mash bills for bourbon or just ryes in general. You don't really want, you can always do it, but most of the wheated whiskeys out there are sweet enough as they are. They can just drink on ice. The old fashioned's really meant for high rye
whiskey. Let's stop that.
One more thing, I left this ingredient out because the garnish for the old-fashioned, it is an orange peel, and it is not just garnish. A lot of people think when a bartender, puts an orange twist or something, or they express an orange, that it's just a visual presentation thing. But it, especially with the old-fashioned, most certainly is not. Oranges have an extremely high amount of oil in the skin. So when you do an orange peel, the ideal way to get the most orange flavor, and bear in mind this, say a whiskey was very soft and it already had orange notes to it, and you don't want to do this. You would not go through all these steps. But to maximize the flavor from your orange peel, you want to peel it over the drink after you've built the cocktail, before you've stirred it. after you've stirred it, you peel the orange over it, because as you peel, the oil is going to shoot out, and you can land some on top of that. Then you express the orange, which means that you're going to pinch that peel and shoot the oil out, pour downwards, and it's going to put oil on the top of the drink, and then you rim the glass. That means you're taking that peel, and you can look at it, and the outside's going to be shiny, and you can see that oil, and you're rimming the glass so that those first couple sips are going to have more orange notes. And what that's going to do is it's going to layer the cocktail, because by the time you get down to the bottom, that ice is going to have diluted more. The orange oil won't be on the rim, and it's going to taste different than it did when you first did it. Yeah. And the final tip is for high proof whiskeys, especially if you're doing a cask strength. Yeah. One fun trick to bring out more orange notes is after you've built it, before you've put the ice in, express that orange peel, drop it in there, then stir it, and that high alcohol content is going to draw out the orange oil as you stir it.
So, one question to ask you about. So, I read some recipes that switch it out with brandy. So, is that a good variation at all?
It's funny, actually. I had this, people come in the other night. That's definitely a Wisconsin thing. Anytime anybody ever comes in and orders a brandy old-fashioned, I always ask them where they're from. And 99% of the time they say, I'm from Wisconsin. Yeah, you ain't from around here. And then I know exactly how to make it. So they like it. And there's nothing wrong. Honestly, that's the big thing. There's nothing.
Charge them double for that.
Yeah, right?
Yeah,
there's nothing wrong with it. From Wisconsin. It's a different style. It's probably actually the style that most people are used to. They use a muddled orange peel, muddled cherry, brandy, sugar, bitters. It's a different style of doing it. There's nothing wrong with it at all. That's the way they do it, and that's the way they love it. And I will make that all day long for them.
Yeah,
there's nothing wrong with it. It's just a different style. It definitely, sometime, I don't know, in the 80s or 70s, somebody started putting oranges and cherries and soda water and things in old fashions, and it got muddied up. And
a lot of that actually came from when the old fashioned first went to sort of Euro-Asia. In certain areas where they didn't have immediate access to cheap, just granulated sugar or simple syrup, what they would do is if they had cherries, they would use cherries. If they had oranges, they would use oranges. That added the sweetener, and if they didn't have all of that, they would use soda water. So that sort of evolved, and people started picking up, and that's kind of the modern day. What you'll see a lot of old fashions have those ingredients in. That's where that comes from.
So, Kevin, I know you made the one that we're enjoying right here on the show.
Oh, yeah.
So, first off, well, you don't have one.
I know. I'm looking at both of y'all, and I'm starting.
Here you go. Here.
If we're all going to go to group therapy together, we might as well.
He already said it was a 5.
Well,
so.
The first start is admitting, have a problem.
It's a very good old-fashioned, Kevin.
Thank you. So what's your rating on his old-fashioned here?
I'm loath to put the old-fashioned on the same level that I put the Bushwacker on, which really affected my judgment with the Bushwacker. I feel I'm committing a lot of bartender's sacrilege when I'm saying it. I almost want to drop it down just so the two aren't that close to each other, but the old-fashioned is a 5. I drink every whiskey. Oh, there we are. That's how I feel. I drink every whiskey as an old-fashioned. It is my favorite cocktail. I love seeing what people can do to it. It's the easiest drink to make, but it is the hardest to master. It is a 5 with no questions above all else.
Cool. Well said.
Kevin, how would you rate your old-fashioned?
Do you have a noise for a 6?
No.
Because
I don't think that's allowed to be aired over the radio.
This is my 6.
Okay. Yeah, this is top. You can't really beat the old-fashioned. It's a classic. It's the classic of all classics. You can't really go wrong with it. You can make it wrong, but
you can. Yeah,
but true. A well-made old-fashioned, you really can't beat it. It's simple. It's delicious. Everything's right about it.
Yep. So this is a drink that I have literally had all over the globe. Every continent that I've been on, I've at least had one variation of some kind about this, no matter where I'm at. I do have to say the ones that I've had probably in the New York area probably present the widest point of variation. Just because there is a globalization effect, within the New York City area itself. it's definitely a drink that I love if it's made well, and I can really handle some variation off of it. From one place to the next. So I have an interesting story to tell you guys about a little bit of research that I was doing, and you'll enjoy this. Before the show, I was looking at some background about the old fashioned, and I ran into a YouTube video. This guy that was, I think he was from France or Spain or something like that. He was, it was like, this is how to make the perfect old fashioned. I'm like, cool. I watched this guy on YouTube. He had this little, cocktail, show that he would teach people how to make cocktails.
He didn't shake it, did he? Are you about to say he shook it?
So.
Oh, no.
I'm gonna go through this as best I can. So I'll see if I can find the YouTube video. Maybe I can post it along with the episode. Plus, maybe we'll watch it after we record the episode, so you'll get a good laugh about it. Because when I tell you, this guy had like 15 steps to making old fashioned. I'm like, really? Are you kidding me? Because he had like these little graphics that would pop up. Step 2, step 3, and so. I was okay with part of some of the variation he had. So the very first step was funny because he said step 1 is you take a rocks glass, you put a napkin over it, you put a sugar cube over it, and you dash the bitters on top. I know Will's looking at me like, I don't think so. Yeah, I'm like, okay, yeah. I'm like, this will be quite entertaining. Then he takes it off the napkin. I'm like, oh my god, with all the paper product on it, are you kidding? Dumps it in the glass, and then he's like, well, the first thing you want to do is you want to kind of muddle this together a little bit. And I'm like, what was the whole point of the napkin? Other than to dump some crap in my drink that was on that napkin now. Anyway, so now I'm enjoying some paper products, some sugar, and some bitters, and my old-fashioned. I'm like, okay, this is going to get interesting. I've got to watch the rest of this. So he says, well, the first thing you have to do is you put in 1 shot of bourbon. Tossed in 1 shot of bourbon. He puts in 1 cube of ice. He says, and stir. And it shows him stirring, and then it speeds it up, in like, really fast motion. And I'm like, man, that dude's wrist is really moving. And I'm like, oh, okay, he's accelerated the video. And he's like Superman bartender, So he's like, okay. And then we add another cube of ice, and we add some more bourbon, and we stir. And I'm like, okay, whatever. It's like sitting there stirring, and all this fast motion. I'm like, God, whatever. I'm like, when does this nightmare end? I'm like, when are we getting to the orange, man? Because if there is not an orange at the end of this rainbow, there is no old fashioned. And he's like, okay, and now you're almost to the final step. And he says, add 1 more cube of ice and a little bit more bourbon. And by the way, you take a full teaspoon of Mascherino cherry syrup and poured it into the drink.
Yeah, man. Oh, yeah. I just felt that noise.
I was just like, oh my god. And he's like, and we're stirring, and we're stirring, and we're stirring, and the whole video goes through the whole thing again. And I'm like, oh god, is there an umbrella, at this whole thing? I'm like, can we light some fireworks off on this drink? I mean, it's just so. Sure enough, he finishes it off, and he does take an orange peel, but he does not twist it. All he does is he bends it. He just bends the orange peel and jams it in the drink. So he doesn't do that essential step that you talked about, which is you're releasing the oils over the drink, as well as you're letting the peel itself breathe, as well as moving the essential oils around the rim. It's about the aromatics that you're trying to, bring around and keep in the glass as long as you can. And then he took a Mascherino cherry and plopped it right in the drink. He said, and now we're done. And I'm like, yes, we are definitely done.
Oh, my God.
Oh, my God. No. I'm like, okay, this is just, please stop. Can I call out the cocktail police on you? Just suck, man, It's a poor soul. I was just, and he was using Woodford Reserve, too, on top of it. I was like, okay, well,
I'll throw him a bone for that.
It could have been a worse choice, that's for sure.
I think I would rather watch him do it with, like, Woodford than Pappy. Oh, God.
Yeah, that would have been worse if he had done it with that. So after the story, I have to offer up some tasting notes here on Kevin's Old Fashioned. It's really good. I have to say, it's been sitting here in the glass for about 20 minutes now. And maybe a little bit longer than that. And I had it when he first made it. And it definitely, the aroma just, burst out. And I was like, wow, this is everything that I think about, when I have a really good old-fashioned. I was like, this is a really good drink. And I watched you make it, too. I was paying attention. I was talking at the same time, but I was paying attention to what you were doing. And I was like, part of me was like, stir it long enough. But no, it was spot on. I thought you diluted it perfectly. And, I have to say this is going to be a 4.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So part of it, I didn't see what bourbon you chose to put in this.
You want to guess?
Stump the Chump, I like that. Hang on a second.
Do you want a hint?
No, I don't. Is this a Buffalo Trace?
No.
Oh. All right, because it's a little bit sweeter. There's a little bit more wood on it. I didn't see you grab that Whistle Pig up there, which would have been fine by me.
Whistle Pig.
Right?
Did you do your orange bitters?
I did.
Kevin likes to put 1 dash of orange bitters, which is awesome. So that might throw you off a bit.
All right. So I give up. Which bourbon did you use?
I didn't use bourbon.
Oh,
I
really?
used rye.
Oh, you used rye.
Yep.
So it was the sweet orange rye that is sweet orange bitter that I agree with you. It tossed me off a bit.
Yeah, it was Dickel rye.
Huh.
And we don't have Demerara here, so I had to.
Hang on a second. Let me cut your microphone off.
we use Demerara for our ginger beer and stuff. But yeah, no, we swapped to Bar Simple, and it's fine. It did have to change the ratios a bit, but
Raise your right hand. I will serve no rye to good old boy Mike, especially Dickel rye. Man.
Ain't nothing wrong with a good rye.
Yeah. Still, a really great drink. And I think that's my point, is that...
I fooled you.
You fooled me by making a really great drink. And that's what I liked about it.
Excellent.
So, I would definitely love to go through some, varieties. As I haven't done it lately, but definitely as I travel around, I definitely take in, probably some local varieties of whiskey that you don't see here in the States, as well as some regionality to it as well. So I will tell you my own personal recipe that I make at home. I make brandy cherries, and so to me that is the essential garnish to a really great old-fashioned. And I just have a really great brandy cherry recipe that I've used for a long time. And it was unfortunate. I actually ran out. I was hoping to bring some for a couple of the drinks we have tonight. But this was one of them that there's just something about having that in the glass that just sets things off. It's like the X factor in the glass, No, it's not a teaspoon of cherry syrup. Just like, oh my God, that
or
guy
the napkin
killed me in the napkin. Yeah, so I knew you guys would really enjoy that. That was definitely a lot of fun. Hey, listen, really enjoyed our first 2 drinks that we've gone through here. First, we are going to take a segment break here, and we will come back and talk about our next 2 drinks, which is going to be the Moscow Mule, with that awesome ginger beer here from the Tippler, and the French 75, one of my favorite drinks we'll get to talk about. So listen, don't go away. Stay here with Model Trains with Dave, and we'll be right back. Hey, that's going to cover our episode for today for part 1. Be sure and join us for part 2. We'll come back and we'll cover 2 other classics, the Moscow Mule and the French 75. With that said, I want to thank our listeners here at Sip, Suds, and Smokes. Listen, you can catch all of our episodes online on iTunes, SoundCloud, TuneIn, Stitcher, PRX, YouTube, Uncle John's Basement, on the backside here at the Tippler, and of course at Spreaker, our native media host. They question every single time our credit card runs through, going, who are those people? Our terrestrial radio station hosts are always expanding, and right now they're going, Kevin, I'd like a gallon of French 75 delivered to us. We'll actually put these guys on the air. Listen, if you would like to hear this show on your favorite radio station, tell them about the French 75 and some really great guys that actually know how to talk about those drinks on the radio. Send them a note. Copy us as well. You can reach us online anytime at info@sipsudsandsmokes.com. Our daily tasting floats. Our tasting floats.
Definitely tasting floats.
I'll have another French 75. Our daily tasting notes flow out on Twitter every day at @SipSudSmoke. Our Facebook page is always buzzing with lots of news. Do us a favor and take the time to rate this episode if you're listening to us online. That's a really big help to us. You can tell everybody, oh my God, I think Will sounds really cute. And rate us a 5. We get to see your feedback as well. I really want to thank my co-host. Will, thank you for being here today.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you for having me.
It was really great. Kevin, thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it.
You made the best thing I've ever had today. And that is really saying an awful lot. I really appreciate it quite a bit. Again, thank you for joining us. This is good old boy Mike asking you to keep on sipping.
This has been a One Tan Hand production of Sip, Suds, and Smokes, a program devoted to the appreciation of some of the finer slices of life. From the Dude in the Basement Studios, your hosts, the Good Old Boys, will see you all next time.